What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're going to jump in with some brand new hands-on Anthem gameplay, and specifically I want to talk about the demo content that we're going to see. We get to see some of that in the gameplay I have right here, but firstly I've got to say a thanks to EA for inviting me to a recent Anthem capture event. They very kindly paid for me to come and check out the game, and it means we can get a better look at some of the demo content, but I should also mention that this footage is captured from a near final build, but still a work in progress build nonetheless. But in this video, we'll break down what you get to play in the demo, how to access it, but we'll also touch on how to get quests and rewards, some of the general progression in the game, and what you can expect to experience in the demo version. On top of this though, we'll touch on a new social space, the Javelin launch bay, which BioWare have just teased, and that's pretty neat as well, so we'll break it down in this video. Right here, we're seeing some of my gameplay playing Interceptor. I'll talk more about the class in a moment, as well as some general impressions, but let's break down the demo content that you're seeing right here. Of course, the demo is going to be a pretty fantastic opportunity for folks to actually jump in, get some hands-on time with Anthem, and kind of draw our own conclusions from it. But the demo is going to be a segment of the full game, so unlike a lot of demos where you maybe start out at the beginning and could play the first couple of missions or something, in Anthem, the demo will sort of drop us into a chunk of the mid-game content, so we'll get to see a decent cross-section of content, and that's the stuff that you're seeing in the gameplay right here. We'll talk more gameplay stuff in just a moment, but just to break it down, the VIP demo is going to launch on January 25th, so that's this week, but there will also be a full open demo launching on February the 1st. And both demos will launch at 1700 UTC, which is 5 PM in the UK, and 9 AM Pacific time. Inside of the demo, we'll actually start out at level 10, and we can play up to level 15. We'll also get some of the in-game currency, and we'll be able to, earn more of this by playing some of the content. And this is used to purchase certain upgrades, materials, or visuals. But on top of this, we're going to get access to all of the Javelins, which is pretty cool. We'll also have access to a few different loadouts, and you can actually save different loadouts for different Javelins, which is really neat. And there'll be some gear to play around with as well. But we're also going to get plenty of gear drops in the demo, and while we won't necessarily earn all of the best endgame gear, there'll definitely be a lot of solid upgrades dropping, and with the nature of Anthem's loot system, many of the kind of early or mid-game items tend to be lesser versions of stuff that you get in the endgame. It's a bit of a generalization, but it means that the demo will give us a real solid sense of the loot, customization, and it's generally a good platform to get your head around the way that Anthem does things inside of its loot systems. So in our demo playthrough, we actually started out in the fort, and this is the space that we'll use to access NPCs, different vendors, of course pick up story quests, but it's also generally a sort of cinematic story space in itself. On top of this though, as BioWare revealed just yesterday, there is also a kind of social area inside of the fort, and this is the Javelin launch bay, and obviously you can see and inspect other players here. On top of this though, you can access the forge, and that's actually where you modify javelins, and there's even a vault in the game as well. You can see it houses all the different weapons, components, gear, even consumables, and you can access the crafting menus from here as well. In the early hands-on that I played, there were some common blueprints. You can see that you can craft different weapons and gear, and they require different world materials as well as weapon parts. But this is just a very basic early game look at this. Obviously in the end game we'll get much higher level blueprints that'll craft some pretty awesome gear. So that's certainly cool, but the fort will definitely be the primary focus for the demo. There's going to be some different content available here, so there's going to be kind of one main story arc, so a few different missions. On top of this, there'll be some free play where you can actually explore the open world. And there'll also be a stronghold available, which is the Tyrant Mine Stronghold. Some of you guys may have seen that one before, but you're seeing a couple of different new missions in the gameplay in the background. But for the general loop, of course, you tend to start out in the fort. This is where you'll pick up quests or story content that you want to complete, and this is both through the actual campaign of the game and inside of the end game. And of course we can launch expeditions, and an expedition happens basically any time that you go out into the world. This is the kind of system that is used for that. So whether you're going into free play, going for a stronghold, or story content, you'll need to launch an expedition out into the world. There is also matchmaking for essentially all of the content that you can launch here, which is pretty cool. And obviously the nature of the gameplay is going to be kind of different depending on what you're doing, but in a game like Anthem, whatever we're doing tends to be for the loot. So of course when you're out in the world, you do actually get loot drops on the ground. Definitely a pretty cool experience, and you can see the rarity of the items you've got dropped when you pick them up, but you'll actually have to complete your expedition and get to the reward screen for that in order to fully check out what you've had dropped. Obviously there are different tiers to the kind of loot you can expect to see. You'll get weapon drops, javelin upgrades, or even components, which are basically modifications, and I have broken that down in more detail in some other videos, which I'll link below. But obviously then you can go through the process of upgrading your javelin, and even throughout the demo, as far as I understand, we'll constantly be getting kind of upgrades and progression for the javelins that we're playing, as well as for that overall character up until a certain point, of course. And that's kind of the bulk of what I can tell you about the demo right now, guys. But obviously whether it's VIP or open demo, we're all going to have the opportunity to get our hands on the game pretty soon, which is really cool. And that brings me to some of the gameplay that you're seeing right here. So this is my first time playing Anthem. We've got some Interceptor gameplay right here. Obviously, Interceptor is a very close range class, designed to get right into the fight, inflict damage, but also to be able to get out of the fight pretty quickly. And obviously the primary thing with the Interceptor is the melee attacks that you get. You can see I'm kind of chopping through these guys with these knives, but also the ultimate for the Interceptor basically buffs your knife damage and gives you a ton of continuous energy. In terms of other abilities, you can get different variants of melees, throwing stars, and grenades. That's the stuff that I've experienced with the Interceptor. There's a fair amount of variation that you can get in the gameplay by customizing these javelins. So that's a pretty basic look at what I'm playing right here. Obviously the thing right now is that you've got some people who are pretty, aware of how Anthem works and what the classes are and stuff like that. But equally, there are a lot of people who are new to the game because the game hasn't even dropped yet. So I'm doing my best to kind of explain the basics of the game while getting a little bit of new info for some of you guys who know more about Anthem at the same time. But in terms of my general impressions, I was more pleasantly surprised by Anthem than I thought I was gonna be, I've maybe played around about 8 hours and that's in one session. And while that isn't an absolute ton of time, the one thing that I can say for the moment is that I want to play more of Anthem, I want to kind of experience more of the upgrades. I want to see what else I'm able to do and how I can continue to progress into the end game of Anthem. And it feels generally like quite an exciting prospect at the moment, I'm left wanting to play more of it. The gameplay is really fun and the combat mechanics as well are kind of more tightly tuned than I thought they were going to be. It can have a couple of clunky moments, but on the whole I feel like the combat mechanics and the flow of the game is really solid. Obviously I can't speak too much to endgame and how Anthem might feel, in 2 or 3 months' time. It's a really difficult question to answer because, just like you guys, I haven't seen that content. But in terms of raw emotional response right now, I want to play more of Anthem. And that's absolutely what I plan to do with the demos coming up. And that would be my single best piece of advice for you guys is to just get your hands on it. See if you enjoy it. If you enjoy it, spend, a little bit more time with it and see if you feel like it's going to be a game for you. Personally, for me, I'm excited to see more of it. But the best thing anyone could do is get in that demo, try it out for yourself and see what you think. So guys, there we go. That is going to summarize my video for today. Bit of a breakdown of some new gameplay, information about the demo, and a couple of my thoughts. Obviously, it's very early days, so I don't want to say too much more in terms of opinion and kind of reviewing the game, but I hope the breakdown of info about the demo has been useful. Let me know down below if you plan to jump in. If you have enjoyed this video though, a rating is very much appreciated down below, guys. Once again, thanks to EA Game Changers for giving me the opportunity to get hands on with the game, but for now, whatever you guys get up to, I hope that you have an awesome day.
Kronicle. The Brian's understudy. He needs you to... jerk. To analyze this?
Where did you get this? Energy is really raw. I can evaluate the data back at the fort.
I'll take Aruna and the rest of the prisoners in the Strider. You should take out that Skara she mentioned. Kidnapping? Sounds like bad news.
Found the Skara we're looking for. We have to take it down.
Do we know what the Skara looks like?
The Sentinel said it was huge and dangerous. anything about those samples?